Alright, well welcome back to the Superlite coupe build. In this video we are going to install the fuel tank in the chassis, so stay tuned. So as you can see we're looking at the fuel tank. I got the fuel tank back from the welder and he did a great job welding in this aluminum hat to secure the factory Camaro Z01 pump. Welded in these panels that I fabricated. He also welded in these bungs for these vent valves. This is going to be an emissions compliant build, and this vent valve will vent to the evap canister, and that vent valve will vent to the fuel filler neck. And in this video we are going to basically use some silicone rubber pads and then fabricate some brackets out of this aluminum angle to secure the fuel tank in the area. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover. Okay, a small step, but we got this all polished up. I used a stainless steel brush, and we'll take a look at this thing. This is actually the softest wire they had for this size brush at McMaster-Carr. It's 0.06 inch stainless wire, and I will tell you, if you use sort of a large strand stainless steel brush on aluminum, it will literally just eat it up, and then you won't have a nice smooth finish. So you want a good sticking surface. You don't want that all gouged up, so be gentle when you polish this aluminum up. And the other thing is, after you're done with that, you wipe it down with some acetone, and now we'll put that rubber on the frame. All right, well, we got the rubber down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually reinstall the back panel, because the way I've designed this is that back panel is actually going to hold the tank from the back, and then we'll also add some silicone to this lip as well, so it'll stop the tank from shifting forward and backward, and then we'll actually add some braces to prevent it from moving laterally. But anyway, that's the next step. We'll put that panel back in. Alright, well, first issue we've run into. So now that I have the tank placed, I decided to place this in before putting that rear closeout panel on. It turns out it sort of wobbles, which means the bottom of this tank is not 100% flat. So I got to figure out sort of where it's tweaked, and then maybe weld in a little piece of aluminum on the bottom, because I really want this thing perfectly flat on those mounting pads. Otherwise, the whole tank will vibrate as the car drives and wear those rubber pads out. So anyway, I've got to figure that out, and that'll be the next task. Okay, so anyway, let's pick up where we left off. I was able to stabilize the tank. Now it's rock solid. And it turned out, you see, like here, for example, there's a mark. Well, there's a baffle that goes through this part of the tank, and underneath it's bowed where the baffle is welded to the tank. So I basically just simply put I had some 32nd inch silicone strips, and I put a piece back here in the front and in the corner on the far end, and that did the trick. So nothing too exotic there, and I think we're in good shape. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to basically fab up and attach the top tank brackets to the tank. And essentially, the way they work is, we've got our 1/4 inch silicone pads, and I'll attach it to the top of the bracket and screw this in. More than likely these screws will go through and out the back of the brace, and this is a 1/4 inch thick aluminum frame rail, so it's got plenty of clamping power. But what I did was I machined down a plate, and this was a 1/4 inch aluminum plate, and I machined it down a 32nd of an inch. So when I attach and secure these brackets, they're going to squeeze the rubber just a little bit, just so there's some clamping force on it. Okay, so I'll do these top brackets and then I'll focus on the side brackets for the tank. Okay, well, it's the moment of truth. I've drilled out all the holes and I've got bolts behind the frame that poke through. You can see it's sort of a tight fit here, but I'm going to screw these in and then put some lock nuts on it, and it should squeeze this down a decent amount. You know, just apply a little bit of pressure, a little bit of clamping force, and fingers crossed it'll be perfect. Okay, well, this is pretty cool. So I have that clamped down, and it did apply some pressure, and literally, if you look here, you can see the tank moves just a little bit. So it was a 32nd of an inch. So it's literally putting some pressure and tilting the tank up slightly. And then when I put the rubber here, it'll settle it right down. So that's what I'm going to do next. But this is called obsession. Every part you obsess over, but you know, you want it to be right. So this is part of my process, as insane as it is. But anyway, see you on the next clip. Okay, well, that is in. And let me tell you, this is in so solidly. 32nd of an inch compressing the silicone pads, and you know, it's just a nice tight fit. This thing ain't going anywhere. But I got a few more brackets to put on. So once I finish the side brackets that are going to go here and there, then we'll take a look, and maybe I'll have one other shot, and then we'll call it a wrap. Okay, well, here's a good spot to pick up the video. So you can see I've got some rubber pads basically placed along the back and the side. I also have two small ones on the front. So real quickly, I mean, these frame rails now create a cradle with the silicone rubber for the fuel tank. And then the back pads create some spacing against the rear wall because I want to put some sound deadener in there and a little bit of heat shield, although the main heat shield will go on the outside. And then on the far wall, you can see some rubber pads placed against the far wall. And if we take a peek at the side of the fuel tank, I can get over there. Okay, you can see I've got the matching rubber pads on the tank. So essentially I'll fab up a couple more brackets, and that'll sort of finish this step in the build. But basically these brackets will push the fuel tank against that far wall. The brackets that I already fabricated will push it down or clamp it down, and you know, we'll be ready to move on. Okay, so the next step is going to be to fab up the side brackets, and then we'll take a look at the fuel tank all installed. All right, well, this will be the final segment of this video. A couple final comments here. So I did finish the two side brackets here, and they put, you know, some slight pressure on the pads to keep that tank in place. I've got all the brackets now tightened down, and I will tell you, this fuel tank is not going anywhere. Forward to back, left to right. It's really in there solid, but the nice thing is the silicone rubber, you know, it's medium hardness, so it'll give a nice amount of isolation to the tank. You know, you're always worried that an aluminum tank will crack if it's rigidly mounted to something. So anyway, you know, I followed the directions in the manual, and I think this worked out really well. Let's see, one last thing we didn't cover in this video. There is a closeout panel. If you saw one of the first episodes, it goes from here down to here. And I will put a few blocks of silicone rubber or a strip, and that closeout panel will, you know, will further keep the tank in place. Okay, so, you know, as always, thanks for watching. Appreciate all the feedback, and take care.